Is it enough? I don't think so. Is it going to save us from climate crisis? Surely not. I mean, there is no better way for me to understand Ukrainian people than looking at what happened in Polish history. But we want to talk about things that really matter to people because we are here to answer these crises, to answer these problems when leaders cannot. Like, we are not here to make people afraid of climate crisis. If you think that you like capitalism made you think that.
The guest on our podcast is Wiktoria Jędroszkowiak.
Climate activism is something that we all have our definition for. And my definition would be that it is one of many different fields of activism that tries to put things that we know into work in a way so that we can see the world that is different, that is far different from what we're experiencing now and what people around the world are experiencing. And we make it possible because we believe that it is possible, if that makes sense. So also, the term climate activism to me, I feel like it's very outdated now, and I still use that. So maybe that's not that's not so honest of me. But I feel like we used to use this term in 2019, 2020 when we were talking so much about, kind of making putting more attention of our leaders to climate science. That was very clear that we need to phase out fossil fuels. We need to do so much in order to stop the global temperature. The rising of global temperature at 1.5 Celsius degrees. And I feel like in the last few years, it got completely different. And kind of things and matters that we see are far different from what we've been doing since 2019. So for example, with the war in Ukraine, the Russian invasion in Ukraine, the full-scale war, we're very much focused here in Poland. And that's how Wschód kind of as an idea arose. We were very focused on how to show that fossil fuels are not only fueling and fossil fuel industry is not only fueling the climate crisis, but also wars around the world, including this particular war that is threatening whole Europe for sure. So we knew that, being also peace activists and kind of people from this humanitarian side, I personally had some experience around kind of different humanitarian work here in Poland already with refugees from Syria in 2015 and 2016 and that's how I started doing activism. And we knew that, kind of this Polish, very unique experience also of Russia is a channel towards the whole climate movement to show that our anti-Western, let's say, approach shouldn't be kind of the main focus now. The main focus should be Ukrainians who are fighting for us all, kind of. I feel like that's something that taught me so much. But I feel like we should also ask that question for those people who are severely affected, not only, us hanging out in Warsaw, either way. But to me, it was very helpful to understand different contexts, to try to understand different contexts, but also to be able to not only focus on, this Polish kind of level of politics. Because, for example, the work that we have been doing within the EU actually led to creating European New Deal and European Green Deal. And is it enough? I don't think so. Is it going to save us from climate crisis? Surely not. But this whole drama around climate and around how we are just demanding the basics, I think that's something that really changed the discourse within, for example, European institutions. But it wasn't enough, and I feel that's something we learned from that, and that's why, for example, we also knew that we need to understand our people more because I will never be able to understand German people or Colombian people or who else better than the Polish people. So there's this, this weird ambition, I'd say, or this kind of desire for young Polish students, or there was when I was in high school, to leave, to go to a fancy uni abroad and all of that. I didn't do that, even though I could. Maybe the money problem would be always a problem, but you can always organize that. But I feel like, and that's also how I met Dominika, so one of the co-founders of Wschód. And we were trying to do it from the other side. So we weren't trying to at first go to fancy uni in the Netherlands or the UK, come back and be okay, now I understand, now I know,
Bringing the Western knowledge.
Yeah, it's very often the same when people move to Warsaw, for example, and come back for Christmas. And now they're like, okay, mom, I'm gonna teach you how you should raise me, for example. And it's so stupid. Like, we shouldn't be doing that, right? Like, there's so many things, and there's so much like cultural knowledge, the knowledge that our land holds in a way that we should understand. For example, when it comes to the war, like, I mean, there is no better way for me to understand Ukrainian people than looking at what happened in Polish history. Than understand, there's no better way to understand, like for me to understand what's happening in Palestine right now than looking at Polish history. Remember about ghettos, remember about the uprising here, remember about Auschwitz, for example, like these kind of things. And I know that, always the Auschwitz kind of argument is the hard one. But hey, like, we are the ones who can own that. Like, it happened in our land, it happened in our country. That's something that we need to carry, like, kind of on. And I feel like, getting deeper into what we know and what is also like within our people, like the common people. That's also, for example, what brought so many people to the elections this year, because we knew that we cannot just speak about, for example, abortion or human rights, even though these are the basics, because for many people, recognition of rights is the right one thing, very much connected with like this neoliberal kind of scheme of doing politics. But the other thing that, for example, was very much often electing PiS, so the Law and Justice Party in Poland, was this whole problem of redistribution of wealth. And we have to show that there's no recognition of rights without redistribution of wealth. And I feel like that's also what Wschód wants to show. What we've done was asking the miners, okay, so guys, what do you need? And then we were trying to kind of using like the fact that we're young, we have more time, we have like more space to do that. We also are, I don't know, we don't have, kids to take everywhere with us. We were going to different rallies in the election year, asking politicians, for example, the ex-prime minister Mateusz Morawiecki, but also I feel like we've confronted Donald Tusk, so the current prime minister, like 5 times on different topics. And I'm not saying that to brag about it. I'm just saying that there were many people involved in that. So that's why we need to mobilize others, because if that would be me or my 2 other friends all the time, like, it would be very easy for politicians to just say, okay, these 3 or 4 crazy young people,
Ban
they just
them.
need to, I don't know, find job and get alive. And
Yeah.
I would agree with that. So we need distributed movement. We need people who also will, make like kind of like take me accountable, if that makes sense. So like they need to say, okay, I understand your point with, I don't know, like targeting Orlen, so the biggest oil company. But what about, I don't know, people living in Płock, so the place that is so full of Orlen's money? And I feel like these kind of questions and these conversations are very much important. And like hence going to kind of like the third pillar, so showing the solutions. Like, we are not here to make people afraid of climate crisis. We are not here to make people afraid of the reality that we're living in. And very often people around the world, they have it so much worse and they will have it so much worse. We are here to show people that different Poland and different world is possible. That's also one of the biggest chants that Fridays for Future are using, mainly Fridays for Future MAPA, so people from the most affected areas. And it, like, it's so crazy for me to, when I hear, like, I don't know, at climate summits, people protesting, people from Pacific Islands, people who are actually talking about their whole islands, their homes getting like sunk in next 40 years or so, like within their lives. If they can say that another world is possible, we for sure need to find the solutions. So I feel like that's a very similar like problem with what you said, for example, about these huge servers in Africa or elsewhere. Like, that's exactly what's happening. Like, we're trying to like export the issue, which I feel like it's even more horrible than like the colonialism that we've seen in the 19th century or 18th century. And I feel like we should talk about it more also in a way that it is about justice and it is about us taking care of our problems ourselves and not again doing the same kind of problem, like the same things again and making the same mistakes again, because these mistakes cost people lives there. So yeah, but also I feel like again it's about the law, and I would love to see more like awareness about that, and also like more initiatives that would be out there, not only doing lobbying in the European Parliament, but also protesting and also showing to the people that, hey, that's something that you should take care of, because your kids are going to be heavily affected by that when they're, I don't know, in high school and they're doing like their social media stuff. We've mastered pretty quickly as Gen Z also how to use internet both to like communicate stuff, but also to protest there online. And again, I'm not talking about like signing up for a protest. That's it. I'm talking more, for example, about using Twitter to tackle, politicians. So I remember very, very like one of the most kind of like cool actions that we've done on Twitter was when we were at COP in Glasgow in 2021. And we knew that like Franz Timmermans, so like the current, at that time the head of European delegation to climate summits, he and vice president of European Commission, he was trying to not be that ambitious as he promised before. So what we've done, we were just started tweeting, and we were asking like different, campaigns. Okay, like so what should be in the tweet, and then we were trying to do that. And I feel like that's something that really helped us like get the EU in like bits still, not fully, but in bits like closer to what we believed in. And like we're trying to use like these different digital tools to also like gather people around specific issues so that they also know more. So we send them newsletters and all of that. But I feel like with AI, for example, apart from using ChatGPT for many like I don't know, like rewriting our posts or so, I feel like we're still not using it enough. I feel like there are like two very valid and two different definitions to it that like kind of describe different situation. So one thing is kind of climate justice, as in to make sure that those who are fueling climate crisis the most are paying the biggest price for it. And like naturally it's the other way around, because the biggest companies, the governments that are fueling the most, those are the governments and the companies that first of all are rich, so they can like ensure more safety. Like I cannot see, I don't know, Jeff Bezos running away from the flood or something like that. I know it's stupid to imagine that, but we need to like kind of see that different like images to understand how like the richest 1% is heavily impacting the climate crisis. And I know this like Oxfam report, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it shows like that like the most of climate disasters and most of like the rise of the temperature in around the world is like the direct kind of like the second, like it's a direct outcome of the actions of the richest 1%. And those richest 1% do not live in places and is not from communities that are the most affected by climate crisis. So we of course need to pay for that. Like these people, the rich people, need to pay for that, but also the countries who are fueling climate crisis the most have to pay for that.
Looking for more resources in topics like countering disinformation, cybersecurity, personal and organizational resiliency, building positive narratives, or media literacy? Visit the Hive Mind platform, an online hub with free content, tools, online courses, and ability to connect with digital activists across the globe. Embrace the power of community with Hive Mind.